you got, John.
Now here we are, all those jobs have gone. Today we're here to celebrate part of the 800th anniversary, but at the same time we need to stop and think what would have happened if common sense had prevailed. I don't want to keep you any longer. I'm not here as the main speaker. I know we've got prominent speakers, certainly 3 of them, going to speak to you. Unfortunately, they're not controversial speakers, so that will. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, I have great pleasure in inviting you, everybody, into Doncaster today, and hope that you enjoy yourself for the rest of the day and the weather keeps fine. Thank you very much.
Lord, I'd like you to accept this miners. Comrades, may I, on behalf of my colleagues and the Yorkshire Area Executive, welcome you all to our 106th demonstration and gala. May I also give a warm welcome to all our friends and colleagues, the Mayor, Councillor Gordon Gallimore, our 3 guest speakers, Tony Benn, MP for Chesterfield, Arthur Scargill, President of the National Union of Mine Workers, and Dennis Skinner, Secretary of the Miners Parliamentary Group and MP for Baldover. Could I also give a warm welcome to David Offer, General Secretary at North East Area, David Guy, President of the North East Area, Ian Lavery, NEC member from the North East Area, Billy Pye, NEC member for Lancashire, Edward Morgan, General Secretary at Colton's Area, David Murdoch, Regional Secretary of Colza, Ian Watt, Regional President of Colza, also to all our mining sponsored MPs, and to Northern West MEP, who has just been re-elected in the recent European elections. Could I also welcome Charlie Chadwick, who plays Nick Bates on Emmerdale Farm. Comrades, it is once again an honour and a privilege to have been given the opportunity to preside over this year's demonstration and gala held here in Doncaster. And I would like to thank the branches in Yorkshire for giving me this opportunity. Since our last demonstration and gala, British Coal and the Tory government have closed all but 11 of our pits. and 2 more will close by the end of the year. They have also closed the only remaining workshops at Shafton, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the branch officials, branch committees and branch membership at those collieries and at Shafton workshops for the loyal support which they have given our union over many years. Comrades, it's not my intention to make a long contribution this morning because we have got 3 excellent speakers. However, it would be remiss of me if I did not thank the Labour group on the Doncaster Metropolitan Borough Council for hosting this year's Miners' Gala. Our union over 100 years has provided a platform for the trade union and labour movement so as to be able to argue the case and present the argument to the British people. It is because of our political involvement that this government, with the help of British Coal, has spent billions of pounds of taxpayers' money trying to destroy the British mining industry and the National Union of Mine Workers. Recent years have seen what seems like a never-ending onslaught on mining communities at the hands of this Tory government. The Doncaster area has felt the full impact of that Tory onslaught. Not one pit survived, and the local authority has been capped more times than Billy Wright. But every time our union has asked the Labour group in Doncaster for help and assistance, they have given it to us. And for that, I thank them on behalf of the Yorkshire area. Comrades, it would also be remiss of me if I did not thank our members who voted in support of the transfer of engagement between the Yorkshire area and the National Union. Those who voted, 88.5% voted in favour, yet the transfer of engagement has been stopped by a Tory appointed certification officer because we did not ballot limited members. Me and Arthur Scargill, because we submitted an appeal against that decision, were invited to a meeting yesterday with the certification officer. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because they have not yet reported it back to the Yorkshire Area Council, but I can tell this demonstration this morning that we're going to have a reballot. The guidelines have been laid down and agreed, and we're hoping that we get an 100% ballot and all our members vote in support of a transfer of engagement between the Yorkshire area and the National Union, so we can start to realise what our forefathers fought for, that was to create one union in our industry, and it's long overdue, and I'm sure that the rank and file support that view. For their continuing support, and could I ask the trade union and labour movement to support the national appeal on behalf of PACS, on behalf of that the appeal forms are out. They're asking for financial assistance, and I also know that there's going to be a mass picket at Parkside next Friday, and they're calling on the trade union movement to support them. These women have supported us for a long number of years, and it's time that we reciprocated and supported them. They've done a tremendous job on behalf of our union. Comrades, when I addressed my first demonstration gala, it was here in Doncaster in 1991. I condemned the apartheid which was taking place in South Africa, and I asked that demonstration gala to continue to pledge their support for our black comrades in South Africa. Could I, on behalf of the Yorkshire area UN, thank all those who over the years have opposed apartheid in South Africa, and could I ask this demonstration gala are to reopen under private ownership Rosington, Armthorpe and Hatfield. And we've got to make sure that these pits are unionised, and we've also got to make sure that the terms, conditions, health and safety of our members are not sacrificed for profit. We've got to demand from the next Labour government that they will not only retain Rosington, Armthorpe and Hatfield, but also all the other pits back into the public sector when they return to power. In conclusion, could I say that our retired members and current members paying into the Mine Workers Pension Scheme, you're going to share £400 million pension windfall, according to British Coal's comic, The Coal News. You can expect improvement of 6.5%, yet the pension scheme actuaries has disclosed a surplus of £813 million. British Coal has already had 2 contributory holidays. They would not have to pay 1 penny fees into the Mine Workers Pension Scheme until the year 2001. It's daylight robbery. All the money should be paid out in benefits to our members. Just imagine what benefits could be paid out to winners, retired members and serving mine workers if all the money British Coal has robbed the pension scheme of and are being paid out to the people who are entitled to it. We could have retirement at 50 on a full pension, and our retired members and winners should have a pension which would allow them to purchase a few luxuries. It's an absolute disgrace what they're doing with our members' money in the pension scheme. As a matter of fact, you can only be classed as daylight robbery, and human outcry should take place from all our pensioners, retired and serving mine workers, and tell them that the £1.2 billion that they've robbed us of should be paid back and improve the benefits for the retired and serving mine workers in our industry. Correct. Comrades, the 3 speakers we have today require no introduction from me. First of all, on behalf of the Yorkshire NUM, could I now invite Tony Benn, MP for Chesterfield, to address our 106th demonstration in Gala. Tony Benn.
Comrades, I think everybody is aware that there is a tide of political change sweeping through this country, which offers us the best hope of getting rid of the most evil government in my lifetime and bringing into power a government that would represent us. And when that happens, I think the role played by the National Union of Mine Workers, by the Yorkshire miners, by the miners' leaders, and by all those who supported the miners, including the women's support groups, will be seen to have been of enormous significance. Because history takes a long time to work its way through. And I'm reminded of that as we're in Doncaster, 800 years after the Borough of Doncaster was given its charter. Now, I was very young in 1194, but I know a thing or two about 1194. The king at the time was Richard I, Richard the Lionheart. And what was he doing? He was in the Middle East having a Gulf War against the Arabs. And when I was in Algeria not long ago, I met the former foreign minister of Egypt, and he said to me, we've had a seminar on the Crusades. So I said, what did you discover? He said, I tell you what I discovered, that when Richard I fought Saladin, the arms manufacturers in Europe sold arms to both sides in the Crusades. So nothing very much changes. Now, they passed an Act of Parliament called the Justices of the Peace Act of 1361, which gave the magistrates the right to arrest people who were taking action likely to cause a breach of the peace. 1361. Now you might think that was a long time ago, but all the women at Greenham Common protesting about nuclear weapons were arrested under the Justices of the Peace Act of 1361. My God. They were accused of action likely to cause a breach of the peace when in Greenham Common there were enough nuclear weapons to destroy the whole of humanity. A few years later, in 1381, they tried on a thing called the poll tax. You may have heard it.
Yes.
1381, Doncaster had been going, what was it, nearly a couple of 100 years. And they tried it again recently. And if there's one lesson to learn, it is that if you want to make progress, you've got to struggle. No progress was ever made by people at the top patting you on the head and saying, we did you a bad turn, now we'll do a better turn. Every gain in history has been made by struggle. 1649, there was a bit of trouble with a king called Charles. It may happen again, but I won't go into that. And there was a group called the Levellers. And what did they say? They said the earth is a common treasury. It is a crime to buy and sell the earth for private gain. If that had been up at the Rio summit on the environment, we might have made a bit of progress. Comrades, the Tolpuddle martyrs failed. They were sent to Australia. I'm sure the new realists at the time said, well, you've got to face the fact, lads. You've got to come to terms with the miners, with the farmers. They're not such bad lads. But the Tolpuddle martyrs are remembered when the squire who sent them to Australia is long forgotten. And it was the same with the struggle for women to get the vote. I tell you, wasn't the men woke up one day and said we've been a bit unfair to the wife? The women had to struggle and struggle and struggle to get the vote. I put up a plaque in the broom cupboard at the House of Commons. If ever you come and visit your MP, ask to see the broom cupboard. And I tell you why I put it there. Because in 1911, before women had the vote, there was a woman called Emily Wilding Davison. She was a suffragette. And she got into the House of Commons on the night of the census of 1911. And she hid in the broom cupboard in the crypt of the House of Commons. So when they said to her, Miss Davison, what was your address on the night of the census, she said the House of Commons. And later she was killed when she threw herself at the king. A plaque there, I made it myself. I went down and screwed it up on the wall. And I asked the Speaker to unveil it. And he said, oh, I can't. So I said, why? He said, that in them as well. Then look at the disabled. Dennis brought them into the House of Commons. They're marching through Britain now. The disabled people are standing up for themselves with all the problems they face. Look at the teachers in further education. Everybody now got its charter 800 years ago. That's what it's about. That's what unemployment's about, to break the power of working people. That's what homeless is about, to frighten people so they don't ever question their employer in case they lose their job and can't keep up their home and they end up in a cardboard box. Now, Doncaster's slogan is be steadfast. And that's exactly what the miners have done. They've been steadfast. And if you stick at it and take the flag, in the end you win. Because history is a long, long process. Somebody once asked Mao Zedong, the Chinese leader, to give his assessment of the impact of the French Revolution. And Mao Zedong said, it's a little too soon to say. And it's right, you know. The things that we celebrate and talk about today, about the poll tax and all the struggles of the people, John Ball, for example, who was what they call a hedgerow priest when the poll tax was introduced. I never knew what a hedgerow priest was. Seemed a funny thing to be. I tell you what he was. He was so radical, no bishop would give him a parish. So he preached in the hedgerow. He's like an expelled member of Parliament, but I won't go into that. But what the Reverend John Ball said was, things will not go well in England till all property is held in common. That didn't come from the Kremlin or even old Charlie Marx in the British Museum. That came deep from the heart of people who knew that the assets that the earth inherits belong to us. And that's why I want to see the next Labour government bring the pits back into public ownership, and water, and gas, and the railways, and the post office. And we've got an opportunity to do it. One advantage about having an election for the Labour leadership is that an election belongs to the electors and not to the candidates. And what we should be saying over the next few weeks, very polite things, I've never been in favour of being rude to anybody, is what we want. We want full employment. We want a living wage. We want a minimum wage. We want homes for everybody. We want the expansion of health and education. We want to see pensions linked to average earnings. We want the trade unions to be free from hostile Tory legislation which should be repealed. We want a fair tax system. We want peace. We want a world that is genuinely has a new world order and not run by President Clinton, who decides to go for Cuba one day, Libya the next, and now for North Korea. We want the same things that the people of Doncaster wanted 800 years ago, that everybody in the world wants. An opportunity to use our short span on this earth to fulfill ourselves in brotherhood and sisterhood, and not have this mad, jungle, competitive rat race which destroys the lives of most people and enriches a handful at the top. Comrades, that is the message for 1994. It's a time of great hope for us, and all the foundations have been laid by the Yorkshire miners and other miners and the people of Wapping and all the others who have been in struggle. We must never, ever let them down, because when the British people decide they won't accept any more of this, that day it will change. And every morning I wake up and say, will it be today? And knowing I was coming to the Yorkshire Miners' Gala, I felt pretty sure it might be today, and you can make that true. Thank you very much.
To accept this painting, and I hope it reminds you of the days you spent with the Yorkshire miners and the families here in Doncaster. So, during the 1984-85 strike, we received tremendous support throughout the length and breadth of Britain. The local authorities in mining areas were prevented by the Tories for providing assistance to miners. But it was realised that if towns twinned, then the Twin could provide assistance. Doncaster immediately twinned with Camden. We received tremendous support from Camden, and I would like to welcome Billy Budd and his wife, Mayor and Mayoress of Camden, and I'd like the Mayor to accept this oil lamp as a token of our appreciation for the assistance that they gave us during 1984-85 strike. Comrades, could I now invite Arthur Scargill, President of the National Union of Mine Workers, to address our 106th demonstration gala. Arthur Scargill.
Chairman, colleagues, it's 10 years since the 1984 miners' strike. It is 10 years today since the famous Battle of Orgreave. Last night, Gareth Pearce, one of the lawyers who defended our miners against false accusations brought by the police, telephoned, no matter what else happens, people were never allowed to forget that in 1984, the full fury and might of the British establishment and state was turned against the Miners' Union in an attempt to destroy the National Union of Mine Workers. It is also, Chairman, 20 years ago since the 1974 miners' strike. And if any escapee from academia or any amateur historian wants to really understand what was behind the attack in 1984 and the attack against our industry in 1992, they need look no further back than 1974 and 1972. The attacks on our industry, the attack on our union, had nothing to do with energy policy. It had nothing whatsoever to do with economics. It was about a government who had a blind hatred and a vicious ideological detest of the trade union movement and the National Union of Mine Workers in particular. And if there is one lesson that every MP on this platform and every contender for the leadership and the party itself have got to understand, the next time you form a government, show the same loyalty to our class that they have shown to their class throughout the last 15 years. Never in the field of industrial conflict has so much destruction been inflicted by a minority ruling class on a majority working class. Tony said, history takes time to unfold. Sometimes it unfolds a little more quickly. How many people have now looked back and seen exactly what was behind the policy of destruction of the Tory government? The real tragedy is that we've seen the destruction of the National Health Service, the education system, and our social services. We've seen the permanency of unemployment becoming accepted by sections even in our own movement. We've got 5 million people without a job. We spend £40 billion on keeping people out of work, and they turn around and talk about lawlessness in society and irresponsibility. If anyone should be prosecuted, it ought to be this government for what they've inflicted on our young people. Now, I've made a pledge that I'm not going to talk too much about the leadership contest for the Labour Party. But I must confess that I'm for the dream ticket. Ben and Skinner. I'll tell you something seriously. After listening to that magnificent address by Tony Benn, giving a socialist vision and a socialist perspective, the greatest leader of our party we never had. And it's a tragedy that he was never able to lead the Labour Party to a socialist victory. I'm not going to personalise the contest either, Tony. Other than to say this, my father used to advise me that if ever the colliery manager supported a candidate for the local NUM branch elections, vote for the others. I want to make my position absolutely clear. I don't want a Clinton clone in Tony Blair. I want at least a change in the policy of the Labour Party. The NUM have decided to support the ticket of Prescott and Beckett. The reason is because we believe that at least from a trade union base we have the possibility of beginning to change the party back towards a socialist concept. It's a tragedy when you think that had the Labour Party leadership in 1984 not been obsessed with condemning the miners for so-called alleged violence on picket lines, and if the TUC leadership had not been pontificating, if the coal workers are on strike, we would have had to defeat not only of the coal board but the Tory government, and none of the problems we're facing today would have encountered the movement under the lips jobs. Against the background of government policy filled with hatred and filled with vindictiveness against the NUM. I don't know how many people have been watching television. There's been a series of programmes on recently. BBC. The leader of the breakaway UDM, an organisation supported by Thatcher in every conceivable way, said, "We feel betrayed." Listen to this gem. This is the president of the UDM and his heartfelt cracker. I've come to the conclusion you can't trust the Tories.
No.
I've got hold of a copy of his presidential address this year. It's worth reading. If only to know how not to make a speech. Listen to this. All those advocates of ballots. He said the UDM decided, democratically, to hold a ballot when faced with a threat from British Coal to introduce 12-hour shifts and 6-day weeks. A 93% majority voted to oppose the Tory and British Coal policy. I have to tell you, 97% ignored the ballot.
Now, invite Dennis Skinner, the Miners Parliamentary Secretary and MP for Bowles Over, to address our 106 demonstration gala.
Hey.
Well, everybody's been quoting different people, haven't they? Don't you quote it now? Arthur quoted Wordsworth. Well, I'll join them. My dad said, leave a bit of work for tomorrow. And that's been one of the problems of working people throughout the generations. Flattered by the bosses, wanting a bit of overtime, thinking that everything's going to remain the same, and the net result is you get your picture in the coal news, having broken the European record, and a year later the pit's shut. It's a very important lesson that we always have to remember. They don't do that down at the Palace of Varieties. They've already started talking about a 4-day week already. I complained. I said, it's not a 4-day week we want in here. It's a 4-day week for all those people out there that haven't got a job and those that want one and those in work. So the kids that haven't got work can be provided with a chance to start and do a little bit. They talk about the social fabric breaking down. They say there's not enough police to run the streets of Britain. The truth is in the pit strike they found 8,000, 10,000 police. They shot them in every cornfield you couldn't turn. And if they could find the police in order to try and destroy the NUM, they could find the police to retain the social fabric if it so wanted. The truth is, as I said to a Bobby at the House of Commons, you'll be next. Don't make no mistake. They've attacked the working class people in salami fashion for the past 15 years, very carefully picking one group after another. So is there any wonder that when I addressed the Prison Officers Association last year, I finished up with 700 people in uniform giving me a standing ovation? The political world is changing. I'm pleased that Tony Benn's here today. I'm pleased that you gave him a round of support. It could have been the leader of the Labour Party. It could have been standing in this election. If only they didn't change the rules in 1989 to stop any real socialist member of Parliament from standing for the leadership. I think people can understand that. When Tony Benn decided to stand against Neil Kinnock in 1988, he only needed 5% of the MPs in order to be a candidate. Can't put a stop to that. He changed the rules the following year and made it 20%. I'd love to be able to change them. I'd love to be able to see a left-wing socialist candidate that was standing for the leadership. But we'll have to make do and mend. We're in a railway town. And we've just seen the latest attack upon another group of workers. The railway workers. This time the signalman. Then there'll be somebody else. I think it's a scandal that at a time when they can pay out £120,000 to the rail track boss for a 3-day week, they should be calling upon railway workers to have to settle for 2% or whatever the going rate of inflation is. I say to those 3 Labour candidates, it's your job now to declare that you're on the side of the railway workers and anybody else that's engaged in struggle. And it's our job to make it abundantly clear in the run-up to this next election that we're going to take back the railway industry back into public ownership as soon as we get back into power. In the last 3 months down at the Palace, they've been discussing the disabled bill. 6.5 million people that's been fighting for decent rights, not better rights, but equal rights with the rest of our population. For 3 months the Tory government has turned them down.
They stopped them the other week from even crawling up the steps into the House of Commons. And yet, those same members of the government had the hypocrisy to go to D-Day, to Normandy, on the Arromancy beach, and to praise those D-Day veterans who were struggling along that beach with the sticks and the crutches, whilst in Parliament they were kicking the crutches of the disabled away. It's evident to all that what's carried out by the next Labour government is to make sure that that disabled bill is put on the agenda in our first year in government. Now we've got a Prime Minister who's actually got the arrogance to talk about changing questions on. Why?
You can't stand it.
Because he can't stand it. You're absolutely right. The man doesn't know when he's on this earth of full of earth. And so he comes along, he wants us to give him 24 hours notice before we tell him, in order to tell him what the questions are. The same man that stands on the number 10 Downing Street lawn, and the journalist can ask him questions, but in the House of Commons he won't even allow the MPs to act in a spontaneous fashion. This is the man who said that he's only got 3 bastards in the cabinet. He can't even count. Of course the Tories are arrogant. They always have been. They've been arrogant because working class people have always been capable of dividing amongst themselves. You've heard demonstrations of that today already from Arthur and Tony. The way throughout history, when working people, men against women, young against old and black against white and vice versa, have been divided by the Tory government and the bosses. Now they're divided. I've got a special little job in Parliament. My job is to make sure that I keep the Tories divided. I've asked Betty Boo Freud for a splash apron to be placed in front of us on the front bench to catch the blood. I say this because it's very important. There are not many moments in our lifespan when you can find a class enemy at odds with one another. Mostly it's all wrapped up in coded language. And this time, it's for real. You're fighting like Kilkenny cats, and this is the time I would have thought when people that are challenging for the leadership of the Labour movement and all the rest of us could afford to be a bit more adventurous and start putting socialism back on the agenda. It's the time. If we miss the boat, it will soon pass. I saw Thatcher the other day. She was coming from the funeral.
Not wrong then.
Why do you pinch my bloody line? She said she was asked if she would go and give evidence to the Fergal Dam inquiry in which she and possibly Mark, her son, I'm careful about the language here. He's got a lot of money. He gets some posh lawyers, but in which she and her son undoubtedly played a significant role. She said, I'm not going to go to the Select Committee and give evidence. This is the woman, along with the rest of the government, that are telling people that when you go to court, is to demand the right to silence any guilty on that count alone. Thatcher is as guilty as the rest of them. People say to me, why do you go to Parliament every day? Dennis, I'll tell you, it's better than taking drugs. You don't need to be on cocaine when you watch those. I saw that pattern the other week
I told him, the Minister of Education, he got rumbled by the headmistresses. The fooding headmistresses, all dressed up in twin-second films like Thatcher, fooding off the platform. I said, you've been coming to Parliament, looking around the dispatch box like a pucked-up teacup on heat. I said, and now you've been with the teachers, you don't want to be dragged back to the end of the lady's last day. What chances we've had to see them in disarray during the course of the past few years. The last chance of the Exchequer that lost £10 billion in one afternoon and never went near a betting shop. Heseltine, in the course of the past 24 hours, he's been told that he ought to become chairman of the Tory party. We all know why he doesn't want it, because he's still hankering after the top job. He's got the audacity to say on radio, I want to keep my job. This is a man that sacked 31,000 miners who wanted to keep their job. He's got some street. And then there's another Charlie Clark. He's after Major's job. He'll be on telly tomorrow night. You'll see him on the programme, all dressed up as an ordinary fella. He's the bloke that lives at number 11 Downing Street, next door to number 10. There's an interconnecting door. And I told that Major, who's as thick as two short planks, I said, if you've got any bloody sense, you put some extra locks on there. And that's the reason why he wears hush puppies. That kind of arrogance displayed by Tories can only be repeated by others in the royal family. One of the most disgraceful things that's been said on the political scene these last few weeks has been that statement by the Duke of Edinburgh when he talks about this no such thing as absolute poverty. If ever there should be any man to get rid of people like him on £360,000 income support, I think you should have another job. Yes, we'll give him one. He can run a kebab shop in Seoul. I said earlier, so we've got to seize the moment. If you've got the enemy in disarray as they are, 100 of them at least want pack about. The rest would like to get rid of Major, and they don't know who to put in his place. This is the time to start drawing up the agenda. Let's make it absolutely clear that if Labour waits for 4 weeks before the next general election to start explaining to the British people what it's going to do when it gets into government, the Tory money that comes from abroad and elsewhere and the tabloid press will destroy whatever they put on that agenda. We've got to start spelling it out now so people can understand what we're going to do. We've got to win the philosophical battle now. One of the key questions that we'll be asking any general election campaign is how you're going to finance all the things you want to do. And when you consider that the richest 10% have had £50 billion worth of tax cuts in the last 15 years, at the top of our agenda we should be saying now that we're going to take that money back and use it for the health care, for the pensioners, to rebuild our education system and the welfare state. We have to win that battle of the people's minds now. Do that in the last 4 weeks, and they'll be in the same position we want in 87 and 92. We've also got to tell those people as well that when we get back into power, and when it seems likely some of the candidates are now talking about repealing those Tory trade union laws, let's make absolutely clear from this meeting that we expect nothing less to get rid of the sequestrators and to restore the block vote that was taken away from us at the last Labour Party conference. We've a job to do with the National Health Service, and it won't come easy. If we want to get down the million on the waiting list, we've got to employ at least another 250,000 people in the National Health Service and in those in the social services. We have to repeal all those charges. We have to phase out the private bed and kick out all those storage beds that are running every health authority in Britain. We have to give the power back to local authorities to start building nursing homes for our elderly instead of allowing the private sector the license to print money. There are lots of things that we could put on the socialist agenda. We have to tell the British people that when we get into power, we're going to repeal value-added tax on fuel and power. And don't let them tell you that we can't do it because of the common market rules. Tell them to do as the French have done and tell them to get stopped. We've got to save this industry, what's left of it. And the first thing that has to be done is to take it back into public ownership, but more besides. We have to make sure that those coal imports that are coming into the ports of Britain at a rate of between 15 and 18 million tonnes a year have got to be stopped by the next Labour government in order for us to provide work for those that work in the industry. We've got to stop and oppose all the new open cast applications. We have to tell the French that we're not having any more of your electricity that's equivalent to 6 Yorkshire pigs. We have to stop the nuclear subsidy, which according to today's papers means that it's going to be another £22 billion in order to decommission all those nuclear plants in Britain. Lots of things to do. We need a plan for work. We're going to go for early retirement, a shorter working week and a shorter working year. Let's do what we do in Parliament. Last year, they turned up for 10 months out of 12. If it's good enough for members of Parliament, it should be good enough for everybody else. Now let's say this as well. We don't want a Labour government that's going to do a deal with PR and the Liberals. No. After last Thursday's results, anybody with any sense now knows, as I and others have said for many years, that if you start spreading the message, you can win without the Liberals in any part of Britain. And those elections emphasise that yet again. I've got nothing common with Paddy Backdown. He sits behind me, God only knows why. I've got nothing in common with him because he's just another Tory like the rest of them. They're the people before 92 that called for the privatisation of the coal and the rail industry, that voted against the minimum wage, that voted for sequestration of trade union funds, that voted for competitive tendering, that voted for every pay policy in Britain bar for themselves, that sold the miners out in November 92 when they crossed the floor of the House of Commons and kept John Major in power. There's nothing in common between working class people and those people that masquerade as Liberal Democrats. There are two liars in society, two forms. There's the bare-faced Tory liar and the two-faced Liberal. You'll need money to carry out the socialist plan. You've already heard from us that it's costing £40 billion now to finance the bill, but there's lots of other money around as well. When we've taxed the richest 10%, we've then got to start on phasing out those massive allocations of money to the common agricultural policy. It's costing every family in Yorkshire £28 a week in order to finance the fraud that goes with it. Plenty of money in the country. They found £8,000 million in 1984 and 5 in order to try and destroy the National Union of Mine Workers. They even find money in order to repair Windsor Castle. There's plenty of money in the country. There was so much money in the country in the last 5 years that they found £5,000 million in order to bail out the top floor clearing banks in Britain. If they can find that kind of money for the top banks, then they can find it for those that are poverty-stricken in our land. Yes, we can win, providing that we're prepared to set the agenda. For too long the Tories have been doing it in Britain, and it's time that we started doing it for ourselves. Those are some of the things that I and others have outlined today. One thing is absolutely certain, that like in 1974, the last time that Britain elected a Labour government, they elected a government with the miners on strike. And yet, they have the audacity to tell us, the modernisers, that you can't win if you're in alliance with trade unionists. Evidence points in the other direction. When the political and the industrial wings of our movement are united, we're unstoppable, and that could be the challenge to all of us between now and the next general election. There is